Hi. Hello. Hey, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in tonight. As you know, my name is Kayla, or Kayla Natural B, and I'm the founder of the Beebodi Marketplace. Here, where we treat, support, and invigorate our human bodies. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredibly important discussion about how to protect yourself, remain safe, be aware, and learning new tactics, techniques, and skills to do so. If you don't already know, this is the month of June, among many things, post traumatic stress disorder. Now, typically with PTSD, we associate this with war veterans or persons who have served in the military or persons who have served in hyper aggressive environments. But I dare say, we dare say here in the marketplace, that trauma can tremendously affect a person, whether it's on a minor, micro scale, or something huge. So, we want to offer a number of ways in the marketplace that you can heal, grow, and advance. And one of the things that you can do to combat trauma or being a victim of reliving trauma or being paralyzed by traumatic experiences is to acquire knowledge. So that's exactly what I did. I stepped into the shoes of a newcomer, a brand new person entering into the knowledge of firearms, something that I never thought that I would do. It never crossed my mind. In fact, I was one of those people that was anti. I couldn't see myself holding a gun. I couldn't see myself even thinking about causing that kind of harm to someone. But what I discovered when I connected with Brian Boykin, who is the founder of 360 Safe, a retired federal police officer, federal law enforcement officer, is that it's more than just holding a weapon. It's more than just using it. It's about the skill. It's about the knowledge. It's about even understanding the system and what goes on when a person is licensed to carry a weapon and how to take precautionary steps to keep yourself safe, whether you have a weapon or not. So, I don't want to give too much away all on my own. I would love to introduce my guest for this evening. And for those of you who are tuning in now or who will tune in later, I want you to really consider, if you are a skeptic, how you may think differently about what it is we're going to share with you this evening. So I'm bringing on Brian now. Hi, Brian. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, incredible. This is a great opportunity, and I hope to share some knowledge with you and your audience that can be a game changer. At the end of the day, my goal is to help people and give them options, just as you stated.
That's amazing. So, how I found Brian was, I want to say, on a fluke. You all know I'm an adventurous person. It was a Sunday. I was on my way to a brunch and I stopped by a really poppin' scene in Harley Davidson store. All these people were everywhere. So I went by. I said, "Okay, what's going on?" They got food trucks. It looked like some kind of expo. And I went inside, and there Brian was. He was setting up his virtual. Brian, why don't you tell us what a virtual setup is? Because I don't want to say it
Yeah,
wrong.
sure. Thank you. As you stated, you came on the tail end of me setting up my virtual range simulator, whereby we're able to put people in a situation that gives them an understanding of the nomenclature and how firearms work. But more important, as we learned, is to talk about judgment and decision making. And part of the whole goal of our company is just that, to give people options. And one of the things that hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about, and it's referred to as a use of force continuum. So when you're talking about use of firearms, That's at the top of the use of force continuum. But there's a whole lot of other steps that I like to talk about in the course of even an individual making a selection to use a firearm as personal protection.
Sure, and we can't wait to hear it. Now, I believe there was an acronym of three letters that you introduced me to always keep in mind. And I remember the first one, it's A for anticipation. Then you've got, I
Yeah,
believe it's R and R.
yeah. So if I could, very important when you talk about your personal safety, I like to lay a foundation of what crime prevention is, and it's the anticipation, recognition, and appraisal of a crime risk, and you taking some type of affirmative action to remove or reduce that risk. It can be something as simple as, of course, being aware of your surroundings, having an action plan, comfort in numbers. All of those things go into what we must do. And as we're somewhat coming out of COVID, one of the things that I like to tell my clients is that we live in a very distracted world. And if you look closely, it's hard not to find people engaged in their iPhone or other activities, and they probably are less aware of what's going on around them. I know it's been a number of accidents that people are walking into things, injuring themselves. And one of the things that I tell people, walk with purpose and understand what you're doing, understand the environment that you, in fact, are going into.
Absolutely. And that's huge. And that probably comes natural to you because you've been in the force so many years. So it's ingrained in you. But what I love about what you're offering is this education to the everyday citizen. It seems
Yeah.
like you believe, and that's the sense that I got when I went to the training facility, which is what you can see there in the video that I shared just before us going live. I went to Brian's training facility where he had his virtual range simulator set up. He gave me the 411, sat me down, said, "This is the firearm. This is what it's made of. Here are the components. This is how you hold it. This is how you keep safe. And now let's put you in a scenario where you are in an actualized situation that you need to respond to." And what I discovered
Yeah.
is that it's more than just the weapon. It is spatial awareness, it's body awareness, it's your wits, it's everything that you would normally do in a day, except now you're in a dire situation. And so it forced me to dig inside of myself and say, okay, what can I pull out of all my sensibilities? And that's really what this is about. So, Brian, my question to you is 360 Safe. I think it's such a befitting name, but what made you come up with 360 Safe, and you tell us why you're doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, so great question. As you stated, I literally have close to 40 years of law enforcement military experience. I was in the Marine Corps for 15 years, a tour in Desert Storm, Desert Chill, 20 years serving communities, local government. Lastly, last tour was in federal government working with federal agencies. So I took all of these skills and knowledge that I've obtained from a lot of resources over the years with the goal of being able to help people understand their security profile. So 360 Safe is emblematic of a comprehensive security plan. And one of the models when we're in the military was, if you fail to plan, plan to fail. And that is so important that without a plan, what happens, chaos will set in. Um, I've responded to a lot of crime incidents where people were so frazzled they couldn't even remember their name. They couldn't remember where they lived. So the whole concept of 360 Safe is to give you a pick list of options. And as you stated, use of firearms, which we refer in the business as deadly force, always should be as a last resort. And before we even get into people with marksmanship, we like to talk about the psychology of having to use a firearm. It may sound very easy, and upon being notified that I was coming on this great opportunity, I took the liberty of searching how many firearms are actually out there, and this just so happens to be legal firearm, and the estimates are roughly about 40% of the population either has a firearm or a family member. So that equates to about 72 million firearms that are out there. And unfortunately, what we know in the profession is the vast majority of people, um, it basically consists with them purchasing a firearm, maybe at best case taking a very limited course, and now have a firearm in their house, and without the requisite training and skills to be able to deploy this firearm when needed, it can be disastrous. A number of people kill loved ones. In some cases, attackers may disarm a victim and use that firearm on themselves. So it's really as a last resort. I like to talk about a whole lot of other things before we're even at that. But in the event that you choose, and it is a choice that you have to make, and it should be a very serious choice. Our goal in 360 Safe is to make sure that you have adequate training, not only from a marksmanship standpoint, but from a judgment and decision making standpoint. And I think that's some of the things that we are able to inject you into scenarios. So now you really have things to think about, things to react to. And the uniqueness of the simulator, I can have scenarios unfold and default in different methods based on how a candidate or a student is reacting, unlike merely going to a range where you're just basically focusing on marksmanship, sight alignment, picture, breathing, and trigger squeeze. That's the extent of what you do at a firing range. With us, it's so much more comprehensive, whereby we're giving you real world scenarios that you're having to use your cognitive skills along with your marksmanship skills. So I'll pause there and see if you or anyone has questions.
No, that's great. Thank you for giving us the 411, filling us in. And this is what you will get when you come to a 360 Safe workshop. The Beebodi Marketplace is taking the initiative to introduce 360 Safe to the health and wellness community that we have access to and that we are in network with, to do a number of workshop series specifically, but not only limited to, but specifically dedicated to women, and especially those who are dealing with trauma, who could not even fathom doing something like this. But as he said, it's more than just taking action. It's about where you are mentally. There's so many components that go into being a part of this experience that you can only learn firsthand. I mean, how many instances do we see and hear about in the news where something unfortunate has happened with a police officer? We're not talking about the racism, we're not talking about the prejudice, we're just talking about incidents and being able to understand everything that goes on in that process empowers you to know and to make better decisions should you decide to become licensed, or should you have a weapon in your home that belongs to someone else. You should still be knowledgeable. And especially if you have children, being aware of that for the sake of their safety and for the sake of anyone who could be elderly, who could be disabled, and really pressing in on this, um, the mental aspect of it. uh, this is huge. It would not be safe for a person who is um, overwhelmed and has a traumatic disorder or trauma disorder to use a weapon of any kind, because then you are putting yourself at jeopardy. You're putting others at harm because you're not in the right space. So I'll share a little bit about my experience, and then I want Brian to recap, from a trainer and a coach's perspective, what he saw in me when I came to the training facility. So when I came, I was completely blind. I didn't know what to expect. I was excited. I knew that it was virtual, so I kind of imagined that it would be like a game. And to some, I would say it's about 20% like a game. Yes, you have this device, but it's not a remote control. It's practically the model of a real weapon. And so everything from handling it, the direction of aiming, and then what really surprised me was the body awareness. I mean, this drops right into the health and wellness space. Everything from my posture, my spine, my breathing, my gaze, my awareness, my thoughts. I can tell when I wasn't calm, I probably wasn't as focused as I could be, as opposed to when I had doubts or maybe I was a little frazzled. I had to get to that place of calm to really execute. And so it totally blew my mind. And then there was another expert there that was there to kind of give me some more pointers and tips about how to be respondent. And so I went into a home situation where it was my home, and I had, um, I guess I, or the person in the system, decided to take out their weapon and actually pursue the person that was in their home, breaking in or just trespassing or doing whatever they were doing. We did not know. We just knew that there was someone in the home. And I can say that all of my senses kicked in. They heightened. They were super aware, to the point where in the beginning I didn't realize that this was really happening and that I was going to need to respond. And so I did it 2 times, and both times were different, but I learned so much from that. Um, and it really was intriguing. It was definitely about skill, but it was also about what is instinctual, what is innate, what how would I really respond? So it was something else. But so Brian was there. Brian, can you share with our viewers who are here now tuning in, and also who will tune in later, what that day was like when I came in?
Yeah, I think we have a little audio difficulty. I think I heard the last of what you said, but if I may, I would like to step back and re emphasize something that you said, Caitlin. That's about the number of firearms that are out there and proper storage and awareness and having tough conversations with your kids and others that you love. So it's not only if you have firearms, if your kids are going to friends or family members' homes, you just need to have an awareness. If Uncle Smitty has a firearm, then everyone's potentially more at risk. So I did just want to re-highlight and re-emphasize that point that you started to make with regards to the day at the range or the day of training. Our whole goal is to invoke discomfort, so to speak, because is very uncomfortable to be in these environments, potentially having to take someone's life. Um, a very good way to to put it is that your split second decision can last a lifetime. You need to, again, from the psychology of using a firearm, you have to have a mindset and literally look in someone's face, point a firearm toward them, pull the trigger, and watch the life potentially go out of someone. And I've talked to victims and some people who haven't considered firearms, and again, unfortunately, it doesn't work like you just use it as a veiled threat. If you have a firearm and it's to be used for self defense, you should have no doubt in your mind that potentially you may have to take someone's life. And let me just talk a little bit about the scenario that I gave Kayla. It was a nighttime scenario whereby someone was breaking into their house. You hear that uncomfortable bump in the night, and then you go to investigate. Keep a couple of things in mind. Historically and traditionally, most burglaries happen during the day. Most burglars are not looking to run into a homeowner. They want to get in and out. They want to steal petty things and get in and out. It's not too hard to figure out at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. You have a couple of cars in your driveway that someone's home. Just as I said, anticipation, recognition, and appraisal of a crime risk. If someone's coming to your home, if a burglar is coming to your home at night, rest assured they have thought through that that homeowner might have a firearm. So, again, there's two different types of person burglars, and the one who breaks in the house after hours is and normally much more inherently dangerous, and they're probably prepared to have an encounter with you. So one of the things that we talked about in the scenario is it tactically or strategically wise to go and investigate? Um, I don't offer any legal advice, but typically, when you can use deadly force, is when you believe that your life or lives of others are in danger. Not that someone's stealing property from your home. A lot of times, movies have fictitious endings and fill the void with things that are not so accurate. And whether it's a citizen, whether it's a police department that takes someone's life or use some type of deadly force, it's initially investigated as a crime until proven otherwise. So all of these things are important, and the simulator that I have allows our students to have a real world crosswalk rather than just merely going to a range and shooting 10 or 15 rounds, and then the next time they see their firearm is in a challenging situation. So let me park there and see if you had follow on questions that I can answer.
No, that's great. Thank you for interjecting what's real. Um, at times, whether it's an in-home situation or on the street situation, we get hysterical. And you pointed that out during our training session, the instances where I was responding in the typical fight or flight, right? It's when you're in distress, your
Yep.
nervous system knows you're in distress, and if you haven't thought it through, if you haven't practiced, if you haven't been exposed to any kind of training, then you're stuck in that mode. And a lot of people make poor
Yeah.
decisions because of that. And so when it comes to women, I would love to talk about that specifically. When it comes to women, um, we're very capable of emotionally responding,
Very.
because even though we may not have the
Yes.
manpower to do something, we are still wanting to protect ourselves. If you have children, you're wanting to protect your children. And so um,
Yeah.
what would you say are some important things that you would like for women to be aware of, Brian, or consider?
Yeah. And going back, you'll hear me go back to what crime prevention is. And what I always suggest in particular for my women clients is to have plans. Um, like young kids, they're incredible with the what ifs. They may say, "If this, what if this happens?" And again, we don't want you paranoid. We just want you in a prepared situation from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, and think through some potential scenarios that are most probable to happen, and what are some potential action plans. As an example, and I think Kayla and I spoke about this, have you thought through if you're leaving work and you see someone in a parking lot and they're making you feel uneasy? What is your plan? Your plan can be as basic as you make a decision, and that decision not to go outside, to wait it out, comfort in numbers, ask for assistance, those very basic things, and carrying it again into our use of force continuum. If you choose to have a weapon, whether it's just your car keys, which could be converted to a jagged edge, you could have pepper spray, you could have stun guns, or if you choose and you have the requisite skills as well as license for a concealed carry permit, that has to be part of your plan and rehearsed. It's very interesting in talking to people who have bought various security devices. As an example, pepper spray can be a great deterrent. It can work very effectively, but in the real world, you don't get to say, "Can you wait, Mr. Bad Guy? Let me go into my purse and find this pepper spray." Is it
Nope.
at the ready? Is it expired? Have you thought through those things? If you're in your vehicle and you think someone's following you, do you have safe places carved out? Do you know where police stations are, fire stations? Are you drive home because having a plan most times could only cause problems for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we learn this as children when we're in
One
school.
one of the other
Hmm.
Yeah, were you referring to me? I think we still have a little audio difficulty.
We have a little kickback in here, but it's a little delay. Yeah, I noticed that. I was just saying, I
Okay.
was kind of just echoing, I was just echoing that I love that you said it needs to be decided and it needs to be rehearsed because, we live in our heads and then we watch TV and we're like, I could do that. Or, I would do that. But would you? What would you really do?
Yeah.
And as children in school, they have the standard um, fire evacuations. They have all of these things. But for some reason, we don't do this in our homes with our children. We don't decide on an emergency evacuation plan, but we should. And one thing that came up in the training session was the mention of the remote. So I was put in a scenario where someone was waiting by a car, kind of sketchy, and I was asked what to do. And I did have a weapon, but the point of the question was to see what all I could exercise first and use, as Brian said earlier, my weapon as a last resort. And I didn't think about it, but it made so much sense. If your car has a remote, you can hit the panic button. And it's so funny, ever since then, I've been accidentally hitting the panic button on my remote, but I'm glad it works. It gets the attention, it does the job. I was also asked, have you mapped out within your,
Yeah.
oh, it's treacherous. Okay, let's see. I might be able to remedy. Hello, hello, hello. Brian, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think I can hear you a little better now. It was breaking out before, but thank you.
Okay. So I'm not sure how much of that you caught, but I was just sharing the importance of having an evacuation plan.
Yeah, yeah, I think you had heard about evacuation. What once again, 60 say how to decipher fact between fiction. Here's a few factual things that your clientele should be aware of. By far, you're more likely to have a fire in your home than for someone to break into your home. Therefore, it's probable that you should have an action plan to get everyone out of your house safely, accounted for, rendezvous points, so forth and so on. So all that's important. One of the other services that 360 offer, we offer comprehensive home security assessments where we will actually send an expert to your house to evaluate a number of things: your landscaping, your lighting, your locks, your hardware, your alarm system, septed, which is crime prevention through an environmental design, and make written recommendations how you can, what we refer to in the business as hearten the target, or or have overlapping um, security. So that's what you want
Mhm.
to the the they refer to. So
Hmm. Let's take a pause. We're having some network, internet connection issues going on here. You know how these technical difficulties are, but Brian is sharing some poignant information that I don't want us to miss. So let's try to reset. So here we go. All right. I see you. And go ahead and Brian.
okay, am I back up?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
It's
Yeah,
breaking up a
I was
little,
just
but I
mentioning,
can hear you.
you know, when you uh, okay. Again, when you see things that are suspicious, it's very important to report that to the authorities. Don't presume that someone else will report, because in law enforcement, it could be a series of events, and the little bit of information that you provide could be the break in case. You might not be aware that someone just had broke into your neighbor's house, or your neighbor was assaulted. Again, no, nosy neighbors are invaluable. I know everyone goes behind their 8 foot fences. Natural observation is important. Take off the blinders when you're going to and from your house. Look for things that are out of place, and when they are out of place, it's vital that they are reported.
Mm, that's really helpful. That's really helpful. And we live in a day and age where people are distrusting and they don't want to share information, and we don't really look each other in the eye, and we don't really connect, and we tell our children don't talk to strangers, you know, but you should have at least some trusted people, persons, a sense of community in your immediate environment that you can confide in, and you can also ensure your children that, hey, if mom dad's not around, you should be able to communicate with an adult, because if should you leave your child to their devices, and I do mean
Yeah.
devices, then how are they to know what is the best decision to make? So I completely agree with you that neighbors are invaluable. Wow. Well, we've covered quite a bit this evening, but I just wanted to give everyone a glimpse of how awesome 360 Safe is, how important this information is, and necessary getting in a workshop is with Brian and I. So we're in June. This is just the top of the summer. And if you have any questions or comments at this time, go ahead and put them in the comment box for Brian. But know that this will be a workshop in the DMV area coming to you soon. We have access to Brian's training facility, as well as the ability to take this mobile. So if this is something that you are interested in, you want to learn more about, this could even be hosted in your home. This could be hosted at a venue. If you want to go beyond even this community, this network, and reach out to Brian, you can absolutely do so. Just reach out to me and ask me for his contact information. I'll square it away with Brian and make sure everything is set to go. But I'm telling you, it's like taking your 16-year-old kids off of that game system, the PS3, the Xbox, and putting them at 16, 17, 18 years old in a real life scenario where they have to make decisions that could alter their life for the better. Um, so Rachel Pope is here. Thank you, Rachel, for being here and for sharing. She said, "Is it okay to be a member of USCCA?" Now, I'm not sure what that is, but Brian, do you know? Brian, do you happen to know what the acronym for USCCA is?
I do not. I'm having difficulty, but the short answer, I don't know. I'm saying it, and it probably deals with concealed carry weapons. There's a number of organizations out there. As you experienced, Kayla, training also off the concealed weapon permit, qualified, certified to has different criteria. They nations, all of which, are good. I'll never smash my competitors. Find the one that's the right fit for you, preferably in your community.
Okay. So I think you hit it on the nail. Rachel said that that's what that is. But I dare say that this information is for anyone. If you just simply want to acquire the skills of being more prepared in the event of an emergency, if you want to refresh some skills that you may already have or been introduced to, this is a great way to do it. Just put yourself right there in the midst of it. And I think that that's great. So if there aren't any other comments or any other questions, we will prepare to close out. And while we're waiting for more comments and questions to come in, I just want to thank you, Brian, for being here. Thank you for your patience through the technical difficulties. This is our first live together, and sometimes things go great and sometimes things get a little shaky, but I appreciate your patience and riding it out with us. And this will be shared. This will be reposted
No,
on Facebook.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, yes, yes. This will be shared. This will be reposted. This will be accessible um, to any and everyone who needs to hear this information. And we'll continue to press in by sharing more about PTSD, overcoming trauma, putting yourself in a position to advance and acquire helpful skills like this. And when that workshop comes out, Rachel's help us spread the word, get the word out to people who are interested. Skeptics are welcome. We want the skeptics to come because you could 360, you know? You could come in being so sure or maybe unsure and lack confidence and leave saying, you know what? I'm glad I went. I'm glad I learned that. So looking forward to it. And thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next time in the Beebodi Marketplace. Take care.